When you hear that someone is going on a missions trip, what is it that comes to mind? Do you picture far-off lands? Hard-to-reach places? Is it a team building a church building? Or rebuilding a house destroyed by a natural disaster? Maybe it's a group feeding and clothing the community. Serving, outreach, planting. All of this is made possible through one thing: connection.
So February was just that. It was a month of connection. So we had traveled to Abaco for the very first time, and this was a sweet trip for me because it was the first official trip that I was able to walk as the International Programs Director. And so there were so many people that I had been in communication with through emails and texts and video calls. And so this was just a sweet time for me to be able to be face-to-face with these people that I had longed to see.
And once we arrived, those connections quickly went from just having meetings with community leaders and ministry leaders to deep fellowship time and getting to know one another and understand what each other's missions are. They went from just hanging out to real connections.
Yeah, so during our time in Abaco, we were staying with one of our long-term partners, Many Hands. And so their mission is to intentionally walk alongside families and communities, helping them build strong foundations for transformation to really break the cycles of poverty. And so it was really sweet to be able to be staying with them during this time. So when we arrived, our tour guide at Camp Abaco was this young spirit-filled woman who she just had the joy of the Lord on her. She was serving there for a 3-month stay for her gap year. She just finished high school and wanted to get into the ministry a little bit before she entered into college. And so that was really sweet to my heart as I found the Lord in college that season of life. And so it was really cool to see her passionately pursuing the things of God during this time. Hearing her heart for missions and her passion to build God's kingdom, it just made my heart leap. And so we stayed up late, sharing stories, praying together, encouraging one another in our walks with the Lord. It was a sweet, sweet time. And it's no surprise that we're still connected today. Lifelong friends, I would say. And so it brings so much joy to my heart when young adults are really pursuing the things in this pivotal time in their lives. So our first connection was with this young lady who was just seeking the Lord for her life in between her high school and college years.
Yeah, and for me it was such a great blessing to finally connect with the members of Many Hands that I've been having conversations and messages with for almost a year and a half at that point, through boats running deliveries over to the Abacos and dropping off and having to coordinate those deliveries. So yeah, it was a true blessing to actually go from just a WhatsApp connection to a face-to-face real connection and meet the people that were behind the work going on there.
Many Hands has several focus areas where we were able to experience really powerful connections. One moment that stood out to me in a significant way was visiting a local primary school, and you know how important schools are to me. Mm-hmm. So you see, 2019 and 2020 were devastating years for Abaco. 2019, the Category 5 Hurricane Dorian hit, and then shortly after that, 2020, relief efforts came in to help, but then because of all the government shutdowns, they had to pull out. So schools were closed for over a year, and many children fell behind in education. And so in response to this, Many Hands has put together a program to assist with literacy, and they've worked together so closely with the school and administration to provide resources and encouragement and long-term support. So some of the supplies that have been carried to Abaco have been to Many Hands for the school. So a library was even built with some of these supplies and through the help of some other organizations as well. And while we were there, conversations were happening about introducing a new curriculum to further the advancement in literacy for these students. And with my background in education, I was invited to attend this meeting with administration and other leaders in the school. It was such a sweet, sweet piece. What stood out the most, though, was the power of this connection and walking alongside people and listening and investing time. It just builds a lot of trust and creates a lasting impact. And so these weren't just programs or projects, they were relationships that really had collaboration at the root.
So yeah, while Kim was at the school, I actually got to go with many hands to a place called Driftwood Farms, which is a hydroponics farm, which if you know anything about me, I am actually really fond of different farming techniques, and I've really enjoyed that sort of stuff over the years. So getting to be part of that was a lot of fun, and I got to sit down with the owner and gentleman who has the whole vision for that place and just speak with him for a while and find out what their goals are and dreams are and their hopes of teaching sustainable agriculture there on the island. And it was a real joy for me to be able to do that. And it turned into a connection that would actually happen in the future, which we'll share about in the December video.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah, so sometimes on these trips there's unexpected joys that come from simply going with the flow. During our time with Many Hands, a church team happened to be serving at the same time that we were, and they were scheduled to serve at a youth night at a local church, and we were invited to join them. And that invitation, again, was a sweet gift to my heart for all the years that I served in youth with my church back home. So the youth night followed a familiar rhythm. You know, there was a icebreaker and a message and small group time, which I was very familiar with. But then before that, the church made sure that every student was fed. And so Tim and I got to man the condiment station. We were deeply touched by the kids' gratitude, but also it was a very quietly heartbroken moment for us. Because when we began to understand the reason why they were loading up with every single condiment, which for us, a lot of those combinations, we would have turned our nose up, but we learned that this was the only meal for some of those kids that they would have received all day and potentially for a couple days. Yeah. And so that was a, that broke our hearts. And then at the very end of the night, something else really was moving. Do you remember when they finished up everything? All the leaders handed out those hygiene kits. Mm-hmm. And when those kids took those hygiene kits, they just held those things so close to their chests when they received them. And that brought tears to my eyes, seeing the impact of something just so simple, the love that the kids felt through these basic needs being met. Tim and I reflected on that later, and it was just something that gave new meaning for us to the countless boxes of hygiene kits that have been loaded onto boats with Hope Fleet. We got to witness the tangible love of Jesus through that simple gift. It was a genuine connection as practical needs were being met, and the kids could feel like they were seen, not only by people, but prayerfully by the Lord, because He cares for them.
Yeah, for sure. That was truly humbling. Mm-hmm. One of the most exciting connections for me on this whole trip, though, was getting to meet a gentleman by the name of Pastor Ballou. And the reason for that is for the year and a half that I was sending boats to Abaco, there was just this name that endlessly kept coming up. I was sending stuff over, partnered with Many Hands and their teams, and when there was these times when sometimes they couldn't get a team member over, they were busy doing something, or there was just an issue with how the boat was getting unloaded or where it was getting unloaded and stuff, and this name just kept popping up. It was, hey, Pastor, there was no worries, Pastor Ballou showed up with his truck and got the boat unloaded, or no worries over there, Pastor Ballou showed up at customs and fixed the issue, or Pastor Ballou showed up and prayed for the people on the boat, and everything went great. And I just kept saying, who's this Pastor Ballou guy? We're not a partner with Pastor Ballou. Is he part of your team? And they'd be like, no, he's just always around and always helping. So on this trip, we made sure to actually meet Pastor Ballou. And our team went over to his church, and we sat down with him and just got to hear their vision and their desires to serve their community and where their hearts are at. And to this day, we talk all the time, and he's now an official partner with Hope Fleet, so I get to talk to him regularly when boats are going over, and we're working to support them and all their efforts there in the community with Abaco.
Yeah, so meeting Pastor Ballou was a little different for me because I didn't have any interaction with him before this trip. My first interaction with him was on the doorsteps of his church. And with our team that went, we have a Bahamian director, and we just love him. And so he was with us, and when Pastor Ballou saw him, his face was just in utter shock.
Frozen in his tracks.
Am I really seeing this man on the doorsteps of this church? Yeah. Because we all have a past before Jesus. And our Bahamian director, he had a past before Jesus, and that's what Pastor Baloo knew, was his reputation before Jesus. And he has such a testimony that the transformation that God did in this man's life was so monumental that Pastor Baloo could not believe he was standing on the doorsteps of his church, serving the Lord and having such a monumental role in a ministry. It was so amazing, and they just, like, there were tears of joy and just this, like, what's happening in you, and let's catch up and all the things. And so man, that connection was so sweet to witness, and had nothing to do with us, but man, it was a joy to be able to witness that. So after all those connections in Abaco, you could imagine that it was really, really hard to leave, because in such a short amount of time, God formed such deep relationships that felt lasting and significant. So those relationships reminded us that the work, it's just not about programs. It's not about all the doing and the projects and the programs, that it's about people. And when we go to these places, just the divine connections and divine appointments that God sets up, they're just really sweet.
February didn't just end there. You know, after returning from Abaco, we had another opportunity to experience connections while serving with Hope Fleet. We actually went to a church and helped host a packing event. Seeing the hygiene kits in Abaco, we got to go on the other end and do the full packing party of hygiene kits with this church.
Yeah, that packing party was like a full circle experience.
Right.
Like, we had just witnessed the power of that, and then we got to come back and be a part of the packing of it and all the things that take place on this side. Yeah, super impactful.
Yeah, all the way from just putting the kits together, but then something that Hope Fleet does too is the person fills out a little card that just says hello and explains to them how much Jesus loves them, and watching the whole process, getting to see it from finish to end as opposed to start to finish was pretty unique.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, so one of the things I loved most about that packing party as well was our whole family was a part of that. We all jumped in, and all 5 of us got to spend the entire day up there organizing all of the materials that went into the kits, helping the participants. And we were up there and got to meet face to face with some of our close friends now, Blake and Lisa. You see, we had only been in communication with them just through a short phone call a few months prior. They were camping, just happened to be camping, right up the road from where we were doing this packing party. And we invited them. We said, come and enjoy if you want and serve, and let's meet face to face. So they did. They jumped right in and were a part of organizing all the things and helping to write the cards. They were great to just serve with that day. We all sat down and got to just reflect on the day, and we sat at the picnic table. They blessed us with lunch, and we just shared even more stories together. So that was a special moment and really kind of a cherry on the top to that whole day.
Yeah, nothing says connect to like pizza and wings.
Pizza and wings, or on a picnic table in a park, right outside the church. It was really good.
So yeah, thinking back on last February, you know, it really wasn't about the places or even the projects that we were involved with that marked us the most. It was actually the people. You know, every connection around a table or in a school, through a shared meal, a hygiene kit, or prayer, was just a simple yes to serving God. You know, mission work isn't just about going somewhere far away or doing something big. It's about just showing up. You know, every act of service, resource, and hand extended becomes an opportunity for connection. And connection is where the love of Jesus is made known.
Why are you looking at me like that?
All right, what bin you want next?
No, we're not doing anything. Putting it all back in and being done for the night. I'm not going to do another bin. I'm not in that mood right now.
All right, I got one more.
I don't know, it's starting to get dark.
That's true. Maybe we should stop and pick up. This isn't ours to go through anyway, it's the kids. Oh!
At least we got started.
This is a start.